All righty, folks. Good evening. Welcome to this week's episode of Roundabout Sports, presented by Filthy Games Room, located at 3479 Newtown Boulevard in St. Charles, Missouri, and by Interstate 70 Sports Media, where our passion is our profession. Thank you so much, folks. It is a nice, cool September 4th, 2024. I'm the maestro, Jeremy Karp. We got a great show in store for you. The amazing Kent Sterling out in Indiana is going to be joining us. He's going to be helping me preview the upcoming NFL season because, folks, we are literally just one day away. We got the Chiefs Ravens kicking it off tomorrow night. We got the Eagles and Packers out in Brazil on Friday. God, praying for all them for that game. And then, of course, Sunday is kickoff. And you already know, for those that know me personally well enough, Dog Pound Nation, baby. We're hoping for the best. I'm hoping. You know what? I've been saying this year's the year for God knows how long. So one day, I'm sure I'll be right. Just might not be this year. Who knows? We'll see. That being said, folks, be sure to follow us on Facebook, on X, on YouTube for Interstate 70 Sports Media, and you'll find all the episodes of Roundabout Sports there as well. Be sure to check out Issues with Wrestling with Christopher Miles and Jared Shannon every week as well, brought to you by Interstate 70 Sports Media, providing some of the best coverage of professional wrestling. Last plug, speaking of professional wrestling, we have the Wrestle Talk podcast that is just 2 episodes away. I'll be on next week, but just 2 episodes away from episode 500, folks. We're here at episode 103 at Roundabout Sports, but hell, 500 is an amazing feat. So, with all that being said, I do want to start with, it is a bit of sad news. Well, it is sad news. So, former Big Red football quarterback Charlie Johnson passed away yesterday at the age of 85. Charlie Johnson, announced by his alma mater in Mexico. Passing away at the age of 85. He will be dearly missed, and we all send our condolences out to his family at this time. Folks, we're going to continue now here on Roundabout Sports by talking about a couple more quick headlines that are in the news in general. So, recently, the Washington Commanders have suspended an employee who made comments about the team's players being anti-gay. They also accused Dallas Cowboys owner Jerry Jones of being a racist and anti-gay and called NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell a $50 million puppet. So the team said in a statement that they have suspended its vice president of content, Royale Entine, who had been with the organization for 4 years for the comments he made to an undercover reporter for the O'Keefe Media Group. Yeah, it definitely is not pleasant when you go on a tangent such as that and hold such a high position involving the social medias of a multi-billion-dollar football franchise and talking about a multi-billion-dollar football league. So yeah, not exactly the brightest move on that part. Although, look, Jerry Jones may not be racist, but he is greedy. So there is that. With all that said, folks, we are going to start. Before we start with Kent, I do want to say that this right now in the American League and National League wildcard race, we have, the St. Louis Cardinals, they find a way to stay in there. It's not close, but they're still somehow in there. Right now, the St. Louis Cardinals are 5.5 out of the final wild card spot at 70 and 69. The Atlanta Braves hold that third spot at 75 and 63. The Cardinals recently passed up the San Francisco Giants, but they still have the Cubs and Mets ahead of them for that third spot. Meanwhile, out in Kansas City, the 75 and 65 Royals hold on to that third wild card spot, and they have a 4.5 game lead over both the Detroit Tigers and the Boston Red Sox. And I'd be remiss, folks, if I didn't say that you really gotta feel for Chicago White Sox fans. Look, there is such a thing as bad. This is historically bad. Let me make this clear to you, folks. In modern history, so we're going to say since, I guess, the divisional era started, you know what? I'm just going to say basically since 1950. The New York Mets had the 62, I believe New York Mets had the worst record at 40 and 120. Okay, obviously terrible. And it was their first regular season for the Mets. Now, right now, it's September 4th, and the Chicago White Sox are 31 and 109. Yeah, we still got a few weeks left. I think the biggest thing for me when it comes to the White Sox that really just kind of put this whole season into perspective for me, the White Sox haven't even matched their full win total from 2020. And you may say, well, what's the big deal about 2020? There were 60 games that season. Now, when you can't even match your COVID shortened season win total by September, yeah, I'm not going to lie. That's where it's out the window. And there's nothing fun about this team. This team is an absolute joke. I honestly would not be surprised if they don't win another game this year, let alone, make anything else happen of special note. The only saving grace for the wonderful 2024 Chicago White Sox is that they cannot be the 1899 Cleveland Spiders because they went 20 and 134. That's the only thing they got going for them. And even then, that's a stretch. But with all that being said, folks, it is time now that I bring on my dear friend Kent. He is the morning host of Sterling in the Morning. He is the voice of Bloomington at 98.7 WGCL. He is the host at Indiana's best sports YouTube channel. And he's also done amazing work in St. Louis in the past as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is an absolute pleasure to introduce to Roundabout Sports the one, the only, Kent Sterling.
Hey, it's good to be with you, Jeremy. Thanks for having me.
Oh, absolutely a pleasure, Kent. Thank you so much for joining. That means a lot to me. So thank you. So I guess the first thing we got to talk about is the NFL season starts tomorrow. What are you expecting in this Chiefs-Ravens matchup?
Well, I mean, the Ravens are going to try to run the ball, and the Chiefs are going to throw the ball, and the Chiefs are going to try to stop the Ravens, and the Ravens going to try to stop the Chiefs, and it's going to come down to quarterback play like it always does. Is it going to be Lamar Jackson getting over on the Chiefs defense, or is it going to be Patrick getting over on the Ravens defense? And that's going to be the interesting part of the whole thing. You know what? It's really hard to win at Arrowhead for opponents to come into Arrowhead and win. So but opening night's kind of a weird night, and I think it's going to be fun, and I can't wait for it to get started.
An interesting thing that people have said lately as we say hi, Eddie. It's great to have you tuning in, folks. Be sure to send in your comments, your questions, whatever the case may be. And Jimmy Harris from the Independent St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame, as always, thank you so much for tuning in. A lot of people say now Lamar Jackson, two-time MVP, fantastic athlete. I will never not compliment how great of an athlete he is. After all, once again, favorite team's Cleveland here. I've seen plenty of them. Now, that being said, a lot of people feel he is still being considered overrated. What is your take on that?
Well, I don't think he's overrated. I think he's capable of taking a game over with his arm or his feet, and that's a rare thing. And he's kind of the prototype of the quarterback that people kind of want. Here in Indianapolis, we're looking forward to seeing Anthony Richardson, who's kind of a bigger, stronger version of Lamar Jackson, if not quite as experienced. But Lamar Jackson is an absolutely wonderful athlete who can put the ball in the end zone with his legs or his arm at any time. And when you got a guy like that, you can beat teams.
Looking at Eddie actually says overrated, and he says Chiefs all the way. The Ravens definitely have how's the best way to put it? A different running back group than they're used to having. So obviously Lamar Jackson, fantastic in his own right as far as a talented quarterback. He's gotten a lot better throwing the ball, but he's also, of course, like the biggest dual threat quarterback in the league. Meanwhile, you no longer have J.K. Dobbins and you no longer have Gus Edwards. But instead, who do they go out and get? Derrick Henry. Now, you of all people, Kent, covering the Colts and seeing Derrick Henry in the AFC South when he was with the Titans, I mean, what does this mean for opposing defenses now that King Henry, granted, I mean, he is, a little older, like Derrick, and of course in running back years, Derrick Henry right now is 30 years old. Yeah. And a lot of people think he might have slowed down. He didn't have a great year last year. I should know. I had him in fantasy. But point notwithstanding, what do you think about this addition?
Well, if he's got any tread left on the tires, he can be terrific. But he's run the ball 2,030 times in his career. When you get over 1,500, there tends to be kind of a diminishing return from a running back. Guy gets dinged up a little bit. But last year, Henry, I think he played all 17 games. He ran for over 1,000 yards. They're not going to ask him to carry the franchise on his shoulders like he was asked to with the Titans. He's going to come to the Ravens and be a functional part of that offense. And if instead of running him, 285 times, which I think was his total of carries last year, if they ask him 200 or 225, you know what? He could be a guy who moves the sticks for you, and he can still take it to the house. So he's a component of an offense instead of being the offense. And that's an important thing for him if he wants to continue to play, because he's right at that place. He and Ezekiel Elliott, the only active running backs over 2,000 carries. And so Derrick, if he wants to continue to play and play at a high level, he's going to have kind of a shortened play sheet and not carry the ball like a bell cow, 25, 30 times a game anymore, but tote it maybe 15. He can still be very productive in that role.
I was going to say, because you look, he had 280 carries just last year alone, which was first in the league. He had the second most yards in the league with over 1,100. But this is where it comes in. He ranked, and this is on an average because so many people qualify, as far as yards per carry, 4.2, which equates to about 150th in the league. And that's, like you said, it comes down to being that bell cow back. And what I think will change is for him, I can see him getting maybe 15 or so carries a game. Because guess what? Look at the quarterbacks the Titans had over the years that Derrick Henry was a part of that franchise. I mean, Ryan Tannehill is not a real mobile quarterback. He's not that quarterback that you expect to make those types of Lamar Jackson-esque moves. So to have somebody, like Lamar really be that good complement for Derrick Henry, I think will really benefit the veteran.
And that's the hope for the Ravens. I think the Ravens are going to take a step back. I don't think they're going to be a 13-win team this season. I think they move south. And actually, I picked the Steelers to win that. I know this is going to kill
Ooh,
you, but pick the
ooh,
Steelers to
okay.
win that division. I think Russell Wilson is the perfect Steelers quarterback. And I think he had not bad numbers last year in Denver. Denver kind of got hot at the end. I think he goes to Pittsburgh, in a place where they never lose, and really put up some good numbers. And the Steelers wind up winning the AFC East. Wait, no,
North.
North. Yeah.
Well, it's all good. I mean, and it's the hardest division in football. Now, I'm going to say this. You want to talk about a
Wait,
good
whoa, whoa, whoa,
problem?
whoa, 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 whoa! Hardest division in football.
The AFC North?
Hey,
What do you think's the hardest?
I'm sorry the Browns can't win it ever, but that doesn't make the whole division the hardest in the history of the game or in the NFL today.
All four. Okay,
What?
so here, all four teams were postseason teams last season, which, considering Cleveland literally had to play 5 quarterbacks because of injuries, was a damn miracle. And plus losing Nick Chubb in the first half of the second game of the season. Believe me, I'm not going to go and say, hey, week 3, I was thinking, yeah, Cleveland's going to make the playoff. No, I thought, well, this season's done. But they surprised me. And then CJ Stroud and the Texans said, hey, we're the young, hot team in the league. And they just whoosh. Then you got the Jack, But
Joe Flacco turned into Joe Flacco, and all of a sudden the Browns were on the couch.
Never thought I'd be cheering Joe Flacco in my life. Been cheering for Cleveland for as long as I can remember. Never thought I would have cheered for Joe Flacco, but hey, if I could do it for one game or for one season, I'll take it. Now, I want to know that, in your opinion, what do you think is the hardest division in football? If it's not the AFC North in your mind, what do you think it is?
That's a great question. You know what? I think the toughest to pick. I think in this, like the NFC West, I really hemmed and hawed over, and I know that the Cardinals are hot garbage. They're terrible. But I really think that, the 49ers, the Rams, and the Seahawks are all really capable teams. I think that the AFC East, with the Bills and the Dolphins, the Jets, with Rodgers, I don't think you got the 4th team and the Patriots that team's going to be terrible. But I think you've got those 2 teams to look at and kind of try to figure out, all right, I got the last place team kind of underlined, but picking the winner out of the other 3 is a little bit more difficult.
I actually have the Cardinals having, and I don't have them winning the division or anything. Hell, I don't even really have them having, I don't think, a wild card spot, if I remember predicting it with my friend earlier. I do think, though, they are a team that is on the rise. I think they had a very good draft. I think this is the make or break year for Kyler Murray. If he doesn't do anything good this year, well, then the jury's out. He's done for. Marvin
He's
Harrison
really
Jr.
all they got. They came into town. They came into Indy for some joint practices, and without Kyler Murray on the field, that's a really bad football team. And defensively, they are terrible. Like, they aren't good anywhere on the defensive side of the ball. Kyler Murray is kind of the thing. He's that X factor who can sort of make it go a little bit and might win you 4 games. But I really think that the Cardinals are as I watched them practice, I thought they are legitimately terrible. And I was in St. Louis watching the Rams in 2011, watching them practice. That was not a good football team for Steve Spagnuolo. And I thought that team practiced better than the Cardinals.
That is a hot take right there. Oh, man, it's kind of burning up in here. Just hearing that. But that's crazy to think about, though, because God forbid we had to go through all those years of the Rams. This is the thing though. Like Marvin Harrison Jr., I think James Conner, when healthy, he's still got a lot left in the tank. I do think that, the defense, yes, probably screwed. But I absolutely can agree with you on that. I do think though that the offense has a lot of good weapons and they could be competitive in that regard if they can keep it within a shootout, I should say. Now, as far as another tough division in football, this is going to be an interesting one. And a lot of people are going to really question this, I'm sure. I kind of want to go the NFC North. Now, you got to hear me out on this one. Okay. This is, of course, this takes a hit because J.J. McCarthy got hurt. Because now you got Sam Darnold starting for the Vikings. But you got the most dangerous receiver in football, or at least arguably the best receiver in football. You could argue Tyreek's the most dangerous. And Justin Jefferson.
Mm-hmm.
Go to Green Bay. You got Jordan Love, who is the future of that franchise, with 4 young, really talented receivers. Dontavion Wicks, Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson, and Jaden Reed.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, now they get Josh Jacobs. Go to Chicago. Look, I'm not a huge fan of Caleb Williams, but that receiving group, that's a really nice receiving core. I think their defense has improved a lot. I think, the jury's out on Caleb Williams. Like I said, I think they could have drafted differently, whatever. But Chicago might turn some heads this year. And then, of course, we got the incumbent division winner themselves, the Detroit Lions.
Mm-hmm.
And look, they are just as dangerous as ever. Aiden Hutchinson, to me, is a 20-sack defensive end if they get another really good guy on the other side of the ball. The problem, I think, is offensive lines have focused too much on Aiden Hutchinson because they didn't really have anybody on the other side of the ball that would be intimidating. Well, now, I think this is one of those divisions where tough as in you can't really pick who's going to win that division. I think it's a big toss-up on this. I personally think Green Bay is going to win it this year. But
I do too. I agree with you.
Detroit still just as dangerous. I mean, they were just a bad quarter away from the Super Bowl last year.
That's what the Jaguars were a few years ago. They were a bad quarter away from the Super Bowl, and what the hell happened to them? You know what I mean? Like and I love Dan Campbell and the Lions. Jared Goff has had a
Dan Campbell's amazing.
Career. And I like what the Packers are doing. I do think the Packers take that division. The Bears are not going to be what Bears fans think that they're going to be. That team's not ready. They built from the outside in. You got to have a really good offensive line for a rookie quarterback like Caleb Williams, or he's going to get shell shocked. They're going to run all kinds of blitzes at him, and that the defensive front is a little bit questionable. I think that the Bears. And Matt Eberflus was the defensive coordinator here before he went to Chicago as a head coach. I see the Bears as a team that does everything on the cheap and tries to figure out how to present kind of a threat of hope for the Chicagoland community while knowing that they really don't have much of a chance to compete.
So here's the thing. You brought up the Jaguars. So now we're going to get into your territory, the AFC South. Sure. Okay, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Like you said, they were just a quarter away from the Super Bowl in 2017. That was literally the all-in year. You know how teams really put everything on the table for one season, and if it's not that one season, that's it. To me, that's kind of like what the Bengals were a couple years ago when they lost to the Rams. I felt like Cincinnati. That was their year.
And the Rams did the same thing. The Rams, went haywire.
Yeah, Rams got Stafford. They got Kupp. They got everybody.
That was a win-now group. Yep.
Right. That Super Bowl, like whoever won it, the other one is not getting that Super Bowl for a very long time, in my
Yep.
opinion.
Right.
And look at it now. Aaron Donald's retired. So, but going back to the AFC South and like the Jaguars, Jaguars have not done well ever since. They had a historic collapse last year. They started 8-3, and everyone's like, okay, well, Trevor Lawrence, they finally got a good coaching situation going on, and they're going to run away with this division. Nope, not so fast. And they proceed to lose their next 6 games. And all of a sudden, Houston comes out of nowhere. They go 10-7. They win the division. Then you got the Colts that only because of, I guess, the division tiebreaker, they finished behind Jacksonville. But once again, they went 9-8, just like Jacksonville did. And then the Titans went 6-11, which is funny because they went 1-7 on the road, which I don't know why that cracks me up so much, but it does. Point notwithstanding, looking at the Jaguars, is this another instance? We talked about Kyler Murray. Is this another instance of that, but with Trevor Lawrence, where if he does, this has to be the year he proves himself to be that franchise guy?
Well, yeah, and being healthy, I think, is really going to help. He was injured last year in that 12th game, and because of that, his level of productivity kind of dropped. But this is Trevor Lawrence's team, and if he doesn't lead them, they have no chance at all. And that's nothing new. If the Colts lose Richardson, Flacco isn't going to be able to carry him for a whole season, and extrapolate that through all 32 teams. The Jaguars have okay weapons. They have an okay defense. They got a guy like Allen who can come get your opposing quarterback. You need that kind of guy. And so if they stay healthy, I think they've got a shot. I've got them going to a wild card. I don't have Houston going to a wild card. I think that they peaked last year and they're gonna kind of tumble. I think they spent unwisely in free agency during the offseason. Everybody's kind of like, "Yay, Rod, go," with the Texans. I don't think that they did spend well. I think that they went out and they gathered other people's problems in a lot of cases. Danielle Hunter, the exception. But I don't think they're going to be as good as they were last year. And so I think the Jaguars take a minor step up, and I think the Colts take a big step up.
Last question before we head to our break here. Do you think the Colts are more built to succeed this year than the Jaguars are?
Yeah, I do. I think the Colts brought all 22 starters back and most of their depth pieces. They're literally rolling it back at every spot, and then they bring in off the IR. You've got Anthony Richardson, who steps back in as the starter. You've got Leatu Latu, 15th overall pick, first defensive player picked
That was a
in the
big
draft.
one.
He can get after the
Yeah.
quarterback. You got A.D. Mitchell as a receiver. You didn't do anything in free agency, really, other than Raekwon Davis and Joe Flacco. So what Chris Ballard, the general manager, is saying to the rest of the team is, hey, let's go, boys. You know what? I signed a lot of you guys to second contracts. You got to back me up. Where if you're right and we roll it back with you, you got to pay off this bet for me, or I'm going to be out of here like crap through a goose. And so the stakes are really, really high for the Colts and Chris Ballard. For the players, they're going to get paid no matter what happens. But for Chris Ballard, this is a make or break year. And for Gus Bradley, the defensive coordinator, too.
Absolutely. Folks, it's time for a little break here on Roundabout Sports. Give us time to talk about. I'm the maestro, Jeremy Karp, alongside my guest, my dear friend, Kent Sterling. We're here to talk about our sponsor, that being Filthy Games Room. Filthy Games Room, located at 3479 Newtown Boulevard in St. Charles, Missouri. Home of the largest collection of modern and retro video games in the St. Louis metropolitan area. Thousands of video games ranging all the way back from the Magnavox Odyssey era of the 1970s and up to the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, and of course, for the kids, the Nintendo Switch. Also, if you go to the front of the store, there is a plethora of free-to-play arcade machines ranging from Double Dragon to Millipede, and even The Simpsons are among the many there. But there are boxed consoles, monthly giveaways, and you can be a part of a patron program there where for just you can get free delivery for free shipping, and you can also get up to 10% off of all purchases. And once again, you are getting a free entry into every monthly giveaway. And let me tell you something, folks. These are not no ordinary like little giveaways. These are not like a little Mario Kart wheel or something. No, these are rare video games, like stuff, it is definitely worth it. Oh, I also have to add, they have tournaments, and the thing that cracks me up the most, they got so much nostalgia in there. They got giant LED blockbuster signs. They got movies always playing in there. Fantastic store. So Filthy Games Room located at 3479 Newtown Boulevard. Meanwhile, Ryan Patrick's tuning into the show. Hey, Ryan, we talked about the Royals at the top of the hour, talking about how they're holding a pretty good lead in the wild card race. And on a little more serious note, folks, and we do this at the end of every show, as we always do, but it's always important to do this as much as you can. Now, especially this month. So September is Suicide Awareness Month. And here on Roundabout Sports and Interstate 70 Sports Media, we always advocate for mental health awareness. And as always, we're going to start by putting up the NAMI helpline, which is at 1-800-950-NAMI. That is 1-800-950-NAMI. The National Alliance on Mental Illness is the nation's largest grassroots mental health organization dedicated for building better lives for the families and for those individuals who struggle. And of course, we put up the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. For that, you dial 988. The line is open 24/7, 365, 366 on leap years. Understand that you're never alone in this world. There is always somebody out there who loves you and cares about you and wants you to succeed and thrive in this world. We all have a purpose in life, and we all do go through struggles, but they don't mean they have to be traveled and struggled alone. You're just a phone call or a text message away. And you could also be the listening ears and watchful eyes for somebody in need. With all that said, folks, I'm the Maestro Jeremy Karp alongside my friend Ken Sterling here on Roundabout Sports. And, you can find us on Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, Amazon Music, Pocket Cast, and more. But Ken, first thing I have to ask you, how long have you been at 98.7 out in Bloomington?
Oh, a couple of years. They offered me a job to be the program director and morning show host. So I said, all right, that sounds like fun. And so I'm doing that. They, I can kind of serve both masters. I can do this and I can do that. I can do the YouTube channel. And so I enjoy that. And it's good fun. And Bloomington's where I went to college and met my wife. And I've got nothing but great memories of Bloomington. And so I enjoy the community and enjoy the radio station. It's fun.
I was gonna say, and what? I guess the next thing I have to ask now. You said you were in St. Louis working at 101 ESPN for a couple years now, and that was or a couple years, and that was in radio producing, correct?
No, I was the program director.
A program? Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So, like you told me before we went on, I was unaware of this, that Randy Carricker is going into the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame. And that's wonderful. That's just beautiful news. Randy was a great guy who I really enjoyed working with. And the broadcaster's broadcaster, which is what St. Louis is kind of all about. Yeah, there's such a great lineage of broadcasting, sports broadcasting in particular, in St. Louis, and Randy, a huge part of that continuity of broadcasting that, you go back to Jack Buck and Bob Costas and Randy. And he was the primary host of an absolutely astoundingly entertaining and insightful show, The Fast Lane. Randy with Chris Duncan, the late Chris Duncan, and DeMarco Farr. They were just awesome. And working with those guys was a pleasure. Bernie Miklasz was there then doing middays. Zach McCright, the Big Easy, and Rick Venturi were there. Stully, Brian Stull. It was just Andrew Stalter was a
Yep.
producer and then became a host right as I left. It was just awesome to work with those guys. I guarantee you, I learned more from them than they learned from me. And most of those guys remain friends. I haven't talked to Randy in a while, but I talk to Rick Venturi all the time. DeMarco Farr, Steve Savard, who did Rams
Seems great.
play-by-play.
Yep.
Just texted with him the other day. And Hoss Newport was the PD after I left, and an absolutely great radio guy. And so I have nothing but positive memories of that staff in St. Louis.
I was gonna say now for those few in the St. Louis area who don't tune in, you can tune into the Fast Lane on 101 ESPN weekdays from 2 to 6 with Anthony Stalter, Jamie Rivers, and Kerry Davis.
I love that Stalter's still on there. Really good writer.
Stalter
really
is amazing.
Very smart football guy. Very smart baseball guy too.
I believe it was. Yeah, I was going to say Stalter, definitely. And, I was looking at the Hall of Fame. So, yes, folks, tomorrow the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame ceremony will be taking place. And as Kent mentioned, Randy Carricker, the great Randy Carricker, is one of the inductees. I also want to say that Jay Blossom is one of the inductees, as is Kelly Chase, Dave Dorr, Neil Ivy, and if I do happen to mispronounce a name, I deeply apologize. I won't mispronounce this one. Good old Steven Jackson, legendary St. Louis Rams running back. Celeste Neeram, the Koplar family, Ray Langford, Tom Lombardo chapter, and auto racer Ken Schrader. And so I'm really absolutely looking forward to that ceremony tomorrow night at the Missouri Athletic Club in downtown St. Louis. That's going to be just absolutely a pleasure. So, yeah. With all that, I want to continue a little bit now with kind of previewing the upcoming NFL season. And one of the big things is the expansion of media coverage. That is one of them being that coaches are now required to answer questions from sideline reporters following halftime. Like on the sidelines, they were told to ask, what are your thoughts on that, Ken?
I hate it. I think it's ridiculous. The next time a coach says something at halftime or at the end of a quarter that benefits us as viewers is going to be the first time. That's not the way they're wired. They don't enjoy it. They obviously don't enjoy it. It's not all like Greg Popovich with the Spurs makes a bit out of it and clearly hates doing it. But nobody enjoys doing it. Nobody's going to share anything of value. I just think it's a waste of time. And I think it's something that broadcasting networks asked for without ever really realizing that those little vignettes do nothing to enhance our enjoyment of the broadcast. They're ridiculous.
I was going to say, do you think there is becoming a shift into making it more of a spectacle than a football game?
Oh, absolutely, which is wrong. At its heart, football's a great game, and we want to watch football. And when I was watching an Indiana Fever game that started at about 7 o'clock, and on CBS Sports Network, who's running the game, they had this ornately produced open. I don't need that. I don't need an open. I know what I'm going to watch. Just show me the game. Give me some insightful tidbits that are going to help me watch the game in a more informed way, and then show me the game. I don't need the spectacle. I don't need, with the NCAA Final Four, they always have those track cams along the sideline that show us a different angle.
Yeah, that's another thing. What are your thoughts on these? There are way too many camera angles. And I know that sounds like a little petty nitpick, but I'm sorry. Like, there is definitely, like, too many different viewpoints and aims. Like, just show me the game. Like, there's...
And you know what? I don't need tight shots every time somebody makes a bucket, or especially in basketball, because the action is ongoing. And so
Right.
they'll show you
Basketball
a
is
tight shot
extremely
of somebody
guilty
who
of
makes
it.
a bucket, and you miss a bucket on the other end. They go fast break, and you miss that action. I don't need that. Football's a little bit different because there are stops and starts. And during the stops, you can be a little bit arty. You can show us some of their personality, and you kind of need to, because these cats are all wearing helmets and pads. But basketball, I think, is way overdone in close-ups, and it just kind of drives me crazy. I don't like replay reviews. I think they're ridiculous. I think we should move past them, or at the very least, be way more efficient with them. And that will enhance our enjoyment of the game. But what they've done is kind of taken us away from those things that we enjoy most to give us those things that maybe people who don't know the game enjoy best. And that's kind of who you pander to when you're a manager and all of a sudden you're in charge of a product that you really don't understand.
Yeah. Here's another one I got when it comes to the broadcasting. And this is pure greed in my eyes. It's just the amount of different places that you have to go to watch football. As far as networks and
Yeah.
streaming services and platforms, you got the ones that are like, okay, let's put an example not tomorrow night's, Friday's game, the
Right.
Packers and Eagles. Now, if you're in those local markets, you get it on your local programming. But anywhere else, exclusively on Peacock.
Right.
Then you got your games that are, exclusively on Amazon Prime. Um, Although I will say, and I hope they do it again this year, the Prime Video Twitch stream does air the games. But then you got everybody that would have to pay for Sunday Ticket and the amount of money that goes into that. And of course, all in all, it's just way, way too much. Way too many places.
I absolutely agree. I think the harder you make it to find your product, the more short-sighted you're being in terms of your wealth acquisition. And I don't think, and you know what, they do a great job. Uh, Bally Sports. I'm not a huge fan, to tell you the truth, of paying $20 a month to watch Bally Sports, because in Indianapolis, you sort of have to in order to watch the Pacers. In St. Louis, it might be a little bit different, but in Chicago, to watch the Cubs, you got to pay $20 a month over the top to get the marquee network. And so what you've got is kind of a financially predatory owner in Tom Ricketts. And I don't like it. Guys used to like the Bush family, the Wrigley family. You had families that owned these Major League Baseball franchises who are really
Right.
kind of civic minded and just wanted to own it to be a good steward. Now you got people who are owning to make more and more and more, just sick amounts of money. And how much is too much? I guess that answer is you never hit that number. And so they just keep coming after our cash. And at some point we're going to say, no, we've had enough.
In St. Louis, I'm going to tell you this much, Kent. St. Cardinal fans, hell, Blues fans too, but especially Cardinal fans have just about had it with
And they,
Bally Sports. And we don't have Charter Spectrum because you can only get it if you have like Charter Spectrum, for example, unless you have like the app or Fubo TV or something. But like we
right.
have YouTube TV, so we can't get it. So, I mean, that's why KMOX, no disrespect to 98.7 out in Bloomington, but 1120 KMOX, definitely the most clutch when it comes to being able to listen to the Cardinal games and everything. And obviously there are alternatives to finding, the Cardinal game and everything. But at that point, when you have to go on there and search for them, like it doesn't, it's not as fun. Like,
Right.
you just miss the convenience. I miss the convenience of just having, hey, here's channel 37 or channel 824. Boom, there it is. There's the Cardinal game or the Blues game, and I'm sure you feel the same way when it comes to, watching the Fever or the Pacers, like
Absolutely.
it's because it's something that affects all. I know a lot of Royals fans out in Kansas City feel the same way in regards to Bally Sports, in Kansas City.
Sure,
You
there have to
know,
be 7 of them. Don't there need to be like 7 Royals fans, 7, 8,
but
maybe
yeah, about
a
about
baker's
that much.
dozen?
Yeah, Baker's done well.
Hey, they're winning though,
Quick side
right?
note, and that's the fact
Like the
that the
Royals are doing all
Royals,
right.
well, they're winning. They're winning, but people still aren't showing up. Or it's not even so much that they aren't showing up. It's just the capacity. This is why another reason they're going to probably get a new stadium is just the attendance capacity. Like right now, excuse me, the LA Dodgers lead. Right now, the Cardinals rank 7th in baseball as far as average attendance, which amazes
I'll
the
tell
hell
you
out of
what,
me.
I know some of the guys in that front office with the Cardinals. They are genuinely good people. And they do a great job presenting a product in a compelling way, and not just the product on the field, but they really take care of their fans and they value those relationships deeply. I'm a huge Cardinals, not on the field fan, but front office, Cardinals aces in my book. Wonderful people.
Okay. Well, I mean, and that's wonderful. I know the front office has come under a lot of fire as far as on-field performances over the past few years, and I think part of it just comes
Yeah.
from the fact that when you're the Cardinals, you have such a high. We talked with Adron Chambers last week on the show, and he, was even saying, it's the high expectations that this franchise has or the fan base has, and it's understandable. I mean, yeah, the second most World Series in history, second most pennants in baseball, and meanwhile, the Kansas City Royals have won 75 games and they currently are 26th in attendance.
Yeah, well, it's out in the middle of nowhere, right? Like,
Right.
and Bush Stadium's right downtown. You got bars everywhere. I mean, it's all kinds of fun. You can start in Soulard and kind of work your way to the ballpark. You can go to Ballpark
Right.
Village, bunches of good restaurants. I mean, I lived right downtown in the Point 400 building, right across the street from Bush
Oh,
Stadium, and I loved it.
wow.
But it was like 81 nights a year, days or nights. That was a great place to be. The other, I don't know, what's the math? 280?
Right.
You could shoot a cannon down Fourth or down Broadway and not hit a soul or a car. So it was great on the ballpark nights. On the other nights, it was kind of like, all right, I'm going to Broadway Oyster Bar. I'm going to get myself some shrimp and a beer and call it a night.
I was gonna say there's not much, and I will give St. Louis credit. They are revitalizing downtown as best they can. They've put a lot of great. The whole ballpark village thing is fantastic. I will
Yep.
say that. Like everything is just beautiful, and I always got love for St. Louis. I feel bad for the rep that it gets. St. Louis is such a beautiful city. Um, but yeah, it does amaze me, and I think Cardinal fans are starting. I think they're going out more because they're also now they can't watch the games at home because of the whole Bally Sports screwing them over.
Yeah.
Like the broadcasting, the whole thing of 2024, it all is coming down to greed and money. That's
Yeah.
all it's coming down to.
You can't have enough of it.
You
I
can't.
got to tell you the truth, full disclosure. I cashed a couple of big bonus checks because of the ratings that we drew by carrying ESPN's coverage of the World Series in
Ooh.
2011, which was awesome. And ratings come and then the checks get bigger. And I didn't mind that. I didn't complain about it. I didn't donate that money to charity. So I guess we're all guilty to an extent.
Exactly. It woe such is life. You can say. I have so you know what I want to talk about. I know we've talked a lot about the NFL, but you're out in Bloomington, you're out in
Yep.
Indianapolis. We all know the biggest story in Indianapolis sports is Caitlin Clark.
Yeah.
Okay, now we get the outside, you hear every day the outside perspective from sports fans. But what is it like in Indy? What is it like in Indiana with Caitlin Clark fever?
It's awesome. She from a media perspective, she's never made a misstep, ever. She never takes any credit herself. She never throws shade on any opponent. She is gracious. She is decent on the floor. She's constantly like this, like she never commits a foul. She's got people like Kennedy Carter with the Sky and Diamond DeShields knocking her on her ass all over the place and turning them into villains in Indianapolis. And so you've got kind of this good person versus bad people, and heroes versus villains. That stuff plays, and it plays here in Indiana. And people have kind of gone from really not having a lot of time for Caitlin Clark, because a lot of people here are also Indiana University women's basketball fans, and the Hawkeyes, when she was at Iowa, and the Hoosiers, they had great games against each other. And so you did have some fractious moments, but once she came here, like she's done a lot of PR work. And it's not PR, because that means it's kind of fraudulent. It's kind of for that purpose. And it's not with her, but she's out like with Habitat for Humanity, building
Right.
homes. She fills her day with really good stuff. And she's become somebody in this town where the people here believe in her. And from being in St. Charles, and so St. Louis, people love people who love St. Louis, right? I mean,
Yes.
St. Louisans love Cardinals. I remember like seeing Descalso and who John Jay lived in our building.
Yep.
People loved seeing those guys, and they felt like they were a part of the community. And Caitlin Clark has really gone a long way toward engendering that kind of relationship here. And it's very, very cool. People are watching the secondary ticket market for the Fever game against the Lynx on Friday night. You can't get in the lower bowl for under $400.
Good
That is
Lord.
completely insane. They used to give those tickets away by the stack to school children. Now, 400
Wow.
bones a piece to go on StubHub and get in the door in the lower bowl on Friday night.
And that's the Caitlin Clark effect in a
Yep,
nutshell. And and I also think, okay, we all know the Fever had a terrible start to this season. I know they started, I believe, 1-8.
they did.
And didn't win a single home game. Over the course of this season, Caitlin Clark's become the most fouled person in the WNBA. And yet the Fever snapped their 7-year postseason drought
Yeah,
yesterday. They qualified for the playoffs, which is huge. I know they're like right now they're in sixth place in
right.
in this conference.
Do you have the
Um,
scores right there?
well, right now I have. Let's see. I can look right now.
Because
Actually,
the Fever are playing the Sparks right now. I watched the first half, and the Fever weren't
Oh,
playing too
well, right
well.
now, it's I don't know how much time's left in the game, but I do know that the Fever are winning 91-84.
All right, they'll
Yeah.
win. The Sparks suck, so they'll win.
I knew you'd get excited about that. I was gonna say, I was like, oh, I see. And Babs, who is going to be there tomorrow night with me at the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame ceremony, huge contributor here with Roundabout Sports. She goes, Indiana is where I grew up, and through amount of times Hoosiers was played in my grandma's house.
Great movie,
Yeah.
best sports movie of all time.
Oh yeah. But yeah, the Caitlin Clark effect, because the record-setting ratings for the WNBA,
Yeah,
and I think and this is something I know because we only got a few minutes left, but we can definitely talk about in a future episode as well, is about the kind of the pay scale inequivalency between female women's basketball and men's basketball. I
yeah.
know that's something that obviously was always an issue, but I feel like, and this is just my opinion, it wasn't as big of a public issue until Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese came into the WNBA.
Well, it wasn't because there was no money. The owners of the NBA franchises that also own WNBA franchises were losing their ass every single year by continuing to prop up the WNBA. The product was not likable. It wasn't fun to watch. And all of a sudden, because of this heroes and villains thing, it's really fun to watch. Money's coming through the door, and people in the WNBA are going to start making real money instead of $78,000 a year. That's not much. It's a shortened season, so the women generally go overseas and they play women's basketball in Italy or Greece or Russia or wherever they go. This is only part of their income, and that's why it makes no sense whatsoever that anybody in the WNBA would look at Caitlin Clark and think, oh no, Caitlin Clark, and knock her on her ass. What Caitlin Clark
Right.
is doing is bringing a tidal wave of cash into this league, and that cash is going, and not just cash but the eyeballs, because the eyeballs are raising Q scores, and those Q scores drive the advertising dollars and the branding dollars. Caitlin Clark is a Gatorade spokesperson and makes all kinds of money doing that. More money is going to come to Angel Reese because of her kind of polar opposite branding of Caitlin Clark. Asia Wilson. There are a lot of women in the WNBA who are going to make real substantial money because of Caitlin's presence in that league. And for them to, cast kind of a jaundiced eye toward her is completely irrational and stupid. And so hope, but you know what? It's also this. It's also why we watch. Because if Caitlin
Yeah.
Clark isn't getting knocked down, if Little Miss Prettyface isn't getting knocked down, what are we? I mean, we're just watching women dribble an orange ball and shoot it. There's some friction, and with friction, you got heat, and this is kind of cool. Conflict is drama, and drama draws eyeballs.
My dad always taught me sometimes you have to be a badass to get things done. I think right now what's happening in the WNBA is the fact that, look, Caitlin Clark didn't want to be the villain, if you will, of the league, of where, people all in the sports world criticize her and mock her. But she's almost, it seems like, embracing the fact that she has haters out there. She's going to go out there and kick ass on the court, regardless of what anybody says or does. And, on the current media rights deal with ESPN, the WNBA makes $60 million a year. At this rate, they're projected to go up to around 240 million a year. At the rate they're going based off the ratings and the revenue that is being circulated in the league this season alone. And keep in mind, we still got a full month to play.
Yep. Yep. And the playoffs, and Fever are going to be in the midst of that. And we'll see what happens. But it's really compelling product. And, I spent a lot of time in the Colts media room, in the Indiana University media rooms. Everybody's talking about, after not hearing anything. I went to the Fever's media day last year. It was me and a guy. It was me and a guy named Scott Agnes, who does he's a blogger, and he's really good at it. He's wonderful. Fieldhouse Files is a great Pacers Fever kind of centric blog. But it was the two of us. And I only went there to talk to Grace Berger, who was a draft pick because she went to Indiana. I went there to talk to her. I went there for like Aaliyah Boston or Kelsey Mitchell or anybody. They were begging people to come and cover them. Now they got a full house. Everybody's coming in to shoot Fever and to talk to the Fever. It is completely different, and that's Caitlin Clark.
Absolutely. Kent, before we close the show, I gotta get because a lot of this was emphasized on our NFL preview. I have to ask you this. So we have time. It's time for our Super Bowl predictions. Who do you think is going to? What do you think the matchup is going to be? And who do you want the matchup to be? And who do you think is going to win?
I don't think it's going to be the Chiefs. I don't think that they're going to be able to three-peat. I think that's impossible in the NFL. The NFL's not built for that kind of thing. You know what? I think that out of the AFC, you could wind up. I can't believe I'm going to say this,
Okay.
But I think that you could wind up with the Miami Dolphins. And out of
Ooh.
the NFC, I it's hard to pick against the 49ers, isn't it? The 49ers just check a lot of boxes. They're really, really smart. Purdy knows exactly what he's good at. McCaffrey, if
Right.
he's healthy, is awesome. Kittle's terrific. You got a Bosa. You got a vibrant defense that really keeps teams off balance. I can't pick against the 49ers, so I'll take the 49ers and the Dolphins. I can't, but I'm running through the entire AFC. It isn't going to be out of the South. It's not going to be the Chiefs. It isn't going to be anybody else in the West. I mean, Ravens, Browns, but no, Steelers can't get there. Yikes. I'm going to land on the Dolphins, and I'm gonna stay claim to it, and I'm going to own it, and you're going to call me an idiot when we get to January.
You know what? Look, as far as who I want, let's face it. I always am going to want Cleveland to make this and win it because, A, the Rams left St. Louis. So if they move back to St. Louis, which that won't happen, but let's go Rams.
No.
If it was
Stan didn't spend $5 billion on a stadium to hang a U and come back to the Lou.
Exactly, that's the thing. Rams are donezo in the Lou, but we got the Battlehawks, and Kakal is always the law. And we got new turf today. Finally got installed. So the dome, the first step in making the dome look halfway decent again. That being said, all right. So for the NFC, I'm not good. You know what? It's the same. I'm doing this. This is bold. This is crazy. I have to do this because I almost got it last year. I had a chance to have this last year, and I didn't get it, Kent. And I want it this year. I want the Browns and the Lions in the Super Bowl. There are 4 teams who have never been in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
The Browns and Lions and Jaguars and Texans. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, to me, C.J. Stroud is an MVP candidate. So I'm going to watch out for the Texans this year. I want to see the Browns and the Lions in the Super Bowl. Realistically, I still think that the 49ers are the favorite in the NFC. I see the 49ers making it to the Super Bowl. As far as the AFC goes, this is the thing. Like, I almost want to go with, and once again, this is going to sound crazy. I'm going to go with another team that hasn't been to a Super Bowl before. I think that the Texans, I'm going bold. I know it's hard for you for the AFC South, but
I just don't think they're. I like what you said about Stroud, but they're going to have to block for him. Yeah, they're going to have to keep him upright, and that offensive line isn't really very good.
This is the thing. I can go with the safe bet. I could always say, oh, yeah, the Chiefs are going to make it. And look, I think the Chiefs have a very great chance of making it again. I think the Chiefs have a great chance to three-peat. But even the Patriots dynasty didn't three-peat.
The Steelers of the 70s didn't three-peat.
The Steelers in the 70s, the Niners in the 80s didn't three-peat. Hell, even the Cowboys never three-peated.
Yeah.
Now they can't even three-peat a winning season, but that's beside the point. So I feel like this is the year of the underdog. That's why I got teams like the Browns, the Lions, the Texans. And look, I like your pick of the Dolphins too. I think if Tua gets proper blocking, oh my God, Tyreek Hill was going to break the receiving record if he didn't get hurt.
Yep.
And the defense of Miami is a lot better. The jury to me is still out on the Jets. I don't trust the Jets and Aaron Rodgers right now.
Jets are always going to be the Jets.
Right. And look, we already know your bottom guys like the Patriots, Panthers, none of them are even going to sniff this for years to come. But when you look at the elite teams, like right now, the teams with the best odds, and I'm not a huge gambler. I mean, I've gambled my mental health a lot by being a Browns fan, but you got the Lions, Ravens, 49ers, and Chiefs. Those are the top 4 teams. So my main one I'm going with is going to be Cleveland and Detroit. If I want to go bold, I'm going to say Houston and San Francisco. I just don't think we're going to get your average, ordinary Super Bowl we've seen lately. I think we're going to really have something switched up.
I hope so.
You could
Although,
even have
you know what?
Texans and Packers.
I'll take my popcorn and go watch the Chiefs and the 49ers. I'm cool with that, but I'd like to
Round
see some
three,
new
do
blood
it.
in there a little
Round
bit.
three. Let's see it
Yeah.
happen. Because I'm going to tell you this right now. I said this last year. If Patrick Mahomes retired after the Super Bowl last year, he would have been in the Hall of Fame. Pat Mahomes retires after, if they win the Super Bowl this year and Pat Mahomes and Travis Kelce retire the next day, they're going to go in the Hall of Fame the next day, the day after that. Like, they're going to solidify GOAT status.
Yeah.
Tom Brady is arguably the greatest quarterback and player of all time. Like, if you go by all the yardage, the accomplishments, the stats, like the records, but Pat Mahomes to me is honestly one of the most exciting, if not the most exciting quarterbacks I've ever watched.
Yeah, he is.
Like,
hey,
he is phenomenal.
if you're willing to throw, passes behind your back, throw against your body, he is impossible to prepare for. You have
That's
no
what
idea.
I love about him.
You see him
That
on
is
the
what I
right,
love.
and you tend to drift defensively toward where he's going with the ball, and he'll throw it back the other way like nobody can. And they tell you forever, hey, don't throw against your body. He does it 10 times a game, and he completes 8 of them. And by the way, Peyton Manning is the best quarterback to ever play, and Walter Payton is the best football player to ever play.
I'm going to tell you right now.
Square that away.
I'm going to show you right there. See that? See that guy? That guy to me is the greatest football player to ever play. Walter Payton is on the Mount Rushmore of football. Sweetness to me was phenomenal. And, I'm a football nerd. We could go for hours on this, and I would love to sometime.
Jim Brown was really good.
Yeah, and Walter Payton. And look, if you say Peyton Manning's the greatest quarterback of all time, I mean, that is a hell of a, I'm not going to be like, oh, no, not at all. Like, dude was phenomenal. So,
And Tom Brady was somewhere between Peyton Manning and Sam Bradford.
Oh, God. Okay, with that take, folks, we're going to wrap it up here on Roundabout Sports. Before I do all the plugs and everything, Kent, be sure to tell everybody at home where they can listen to you and find you.
It's the easy beasy. Go to YouTube and search Kent Sterling, and my channel will pop up. Everything that I do posts up there. That's easy.
All right. And for those that live in the Indiana market, they know to catch you at 98.7.
Always. Every morning, WGCLradio.com, available everywhere. And every morning from 7 to 9, off we go.
All right, perfect. And folks, as always, you can find Roundabout Sports on Spotify, Pocket Cast, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music. You can follow us on Facebook, on X, on YouTube for Interstate 70 Sports Media, and then you can follow Roundabout Sports on Facebook. And once again, anywhere you see Roundabout Sports or I-70 Sports Media, give us a subscribe. We're also online at interstate70sports.media for all the latest news and updates. Also, folks, once again, be sure to check out on Tuesday nights the Wrestle Talk podcast, and be sure to check out Issues with Wrestling every weekend. And as always, folks, we close our show with the NAMI helpline. That is 1-800-950-NAMI. 1-800-950-NAMI. The National Alliance on Mental Illness is the nation's largest grassroots mental health organization dedicated to building better lives for those who struggle. And of course, we put the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline up. Remember, this month is Suicide Awareness Month, but we put this up at the end of every show every week. It don't matter when the hell the month is. Understand that the line is 988. The line is open 24/7, 365, 366 on leap years. Understand you're never alone in this world. There is always somebody out there who loves you and cares about you, and you are extremely important. You mean the world to somebody. We were all put on this earth for a reason, And we all go through our struggles throughout daily life. That doesn't mean they have to be traveled alone. And you're just a phone call, a text message, an email, anything away. And you could also be the listening ears and watchful eyes for somebody out there in need. I want to thank once again Kent Sterling for being on. Stay tuned for programming updates, as we will not be on next Wednesday night, but we will be sure to keep you posted on the next episode of Roundabout Sports. Until then, folks, I'm the Maestro Jeremy Karp, and remember, life is a book full of empty pages just waiting to be written in. Make your lives worth reading. Good night,